Welcome to The Intersections by Talaya, a podcast where we navigate the complex landscape of cancer, health equity, systemic advocacy, and personal leadership. I am your host, Talaya Dendy, a cancer doula, board-certified patient advocate, and health and wellness coach, and a 14-year cancer thriver. This is a space for leaders, advocates, and thrivers who are ready to look beyond the surface of the cancer journey to address the systems that shape it. Let's dive into today's reflection. I get asked a lot about what the Bush Fellowship is and what the application process entails. The Bush Fellowship isn't just a grant, it's a mirror. It forces you to ask, who do I need to become to lead the change I'm calling for? In episode 2, I'm pulling back the curtain on the soul searching, the waiting, the leadership audit that changed everything. I'll start off by sharing what the Bush Fellowship is and what it means to me. The Bush Fellowship is a self-designed leadership program that gives individuals the flexibility they need to develop their own capacity to lead effectively. It is an investment in me and my leadership. Personally, the Bush Fellowship allows me to invest deeply in my growth and well-being so I can lead more effectively for the long haul. It's about sustainability. It includes rest, reflection, and creating a transformative experience. Professionally, it means having more impact in advancing holistic cancer care and doing more good for my region. I applied for the fellowship because I saw it as an amazing tool and resource for huge systemic impact. Most people see the fellowship as a trophy or prestige. And, it is really a prestigious honor. However, there's so many other aspects to the Bush Fellowship. One of them that I have found really helpful so far is just being able to take a step back, having the time to step back and take a 360 view of not only my leadership, but myself as well, my community, and what we all truly want and need. I want to quickly walk through the timeline of the Bush Fellowship and my experience both times I applied. I initially applied in 2019 for the 2020 Bush Fellowship. And we all know what happened in 2020. So I think me not getting the Bush Fellowship then was a blessing in disguise. Also, as I look back, compared to where I was then and where I am now, I honestly don't think I would have been ready. I had more work to do professionally and personally. The Bush Fellowship process and application is not a quick process. It was months of intentionality. I initially applied in 2019 because a friend of mine had encouraged me to apply. 2019 was a time when I initially got out there and I started connecting with people, educating people about the work that I do, and taking ownership of my dream, my vision, and my purpose. My friend was aware of the work that I was doing and she encouraged me to apply. She said, Talaya, I think it would be a really great opportunity for you. So I looked into the fellowship and I applied for the first time. I submitted my application in October of 2019. And about 2 months later, December 2019, I was notified that I was a quarter finalist. There was 745 applications, and I made it to one of the 155 quarter finalists. At that point, I had to complete a stage 2 application and work with a mentor to help me prepare for the stage 2 application. That mentor was a Bush Fellow alum. After meeting with the mentor and completing the application, I submitted my application in January of 2020. That completed the phase 2 portion of the application. At that point, I was considered a semifinalist. Unfortunately, after making it to the semifinals, I was notified in February of 2020 that I was not selected to move forward and be considered for the running of a Bush Fellow. It was a huge honor to be one of 47 semifinalists. This was a great achievement in itself, considering it was the first time that I had applied. Many people aren't selected as fellows on their first, second, or even third try. After getting that news, I went back to work on my purpose and my mission. Between 2021 and 2023, I watched the application window. I watched the announcements of the new fellows, and I just continued to do my work as well. I was very happy for everyone who won the fellowship. And for me, I just didn't feel like the time was right until the same friend encouraged me to apply again during the 2024 application process for the 2025 Bush Fellows. So, once again, October 2024, I submitted my application for the second time. November 2024, I was notified that I was a semifinalist for the Bush Fellowship Program. During this time, they had received 984 applications. So even more people applied than in 2019. That meant I was one of 86 semifinalists advancing in the selection process. They admired my commitment to developing my leadership to better serve my community and pursuing my vision for large scale, equitable change. The next step was interviewing my references. They wanted to speak with my references about my work, our relationship, and me as a leader, and my ability to lead my vision that I had described for my community. After interviewing my references, I received a notification in February of 2025 that I was selected as one of 42 finalists for the 2025 Bush Fellowship. So at that point, I just could not believe it. I was so excited, so happy, but I had to remind myself it is a huge achievement to make it to this point, but I wasn't done yet. So I started prepping for the interviews. In preparation for the interviews, I attended some information sessions and had the opportunity to ask questions. The interview actually took place on April 7th, 2025. It was an in-person interview, and I happened to be in the first group. Leading up to this interview, I faced so many challenges. It was like the devil was attacking me on all fronts, trying to make me give up, trying to make me fold and crumble. A week before my interview, one of my crowns came off, my tooth. Thankfully, I had an appointment scheduled for a cleaning. So it worked out that I was able to get that crown replaced at that appointment. Unfortunately, I wasn't out of the woods yet. The Thursday before the interview, I was overcome with 100 plus degree temperature. You feel that tingle, that little tickle in your throat. And in the middle of the night, I just felt hot. I started sweating. It was so messed up because earlier that day, I had gotten my hair done to prepare for the interview. Now, all the natural hair ladies out there, you know what it's like when you get your hair all done. It's all bouncy and silky and you sweat or water hits it and it starts to revert. So I was just so frustrated by that. I had spent time and money getting all ready for this interview. And here comes sickness. Here comes a fever. Just wiped me out. I was sick that whole weekend. And I was praying, asking God to remove this fever, remove this bug, whatever it was. Thankfully, with the help of some over-the-counter cold and flu medications, it helped. Late Sunday night, the temperature had broke. I no longer had a temperature. But I was so nervous and upset because I felt like I didn't have time to really prepare for the interview. I was not feeling 100%, but I set my alarm for early Monday morning so that I could get up, see how I felt, and start to review my notes and mentally prepare myself. I said a prayer and I just said, God, if it's your will, please allow me to be a 2025 Bush Fellow. Please give me the strength and the energy to get through the interviews. Now, mind you, I had to meet with 4 groups of 2 interviewers. That's a total of 8 people. Again, I'm not 100%. Thankfully, everything went well with the interviews. We all had the opportunity to take a professional photo. Again, reminding you I'm not feeling well, so it was not one of my best photos, but I'm thankful for the opportunity. And I'm just grateful that I was able to pull it together. So, after all of that, after the whole application process, after months of waiting, after being attacked from different fronts, all those things that tried to get in the way, I received notification on April 17th, 2025, that I was selected as a 2025 Bush Fellow. After being accepted, the following month, we had a Bush Fellowship retreat. And then there was the big day, June 3rd, 2025. It was the public announcement for the 2025 Bush Fellows. And that was really one of the best days of my life. It was just filled with so many different experiences that I had not had. One of them was being a guest on WCCO news segment. Myself and another Bush Fellow had the opportunity to talk about what the Bush Fellowship means to us and what we plan to do with the fellowship. That was an amazing opportunity. And of course, there was more work to do after the celebrations. It was so interesting how much I learned in the entire process itself, not just from the application, but during the interviews. There was just so much learning and growth that just happened in that time period itself. The Bush Fellowship is a once in a lifetime transformational journey, and it was cemented. It's real. I'm dedicated to making the best of it because I deserve it. I deserve it. I've done the work. I continue to do the work. And one of the greatest honors for me has been all the people who I had no idea was watching say, Talaya, you earned it. You deserve it. I've watched you year after year. You've been consistent. And to me, that is a huge, huge honor. I must say that it's not just about winning or getting the fellowship. There is deep, uncomfortable, and consistent work that is involved. I didn't just apply to get the Bush Fellowship and all the wonderful things that it brings. I applied to become someone capable of addressing systemic cancer inequities, to grow my leadership to more effectively tackle those challenges. The process required to define my big, bold dream, that required a lot of deep reflection. That required a lot of soul searching and looking beyond what I see in front of me, looking beyond what I've experienced, looking beyond what your typical leader looks like or the typical person that's viewed as a leader. One thing that really stopped me in my tracks was a question that I received from an interviewer during the interview process. The question seemed so simple, but it was one of the hardest questions for me to answer. The question was, Talaya, what do you need? He may have added some additional things, but really it was, what do you need? That was a hard question for me because no one has ever asked. No one has ever asked, what do you need? I really had to sit there in that moment and think about what I needed. And the first thing I started listing or sharing was this education, that certification. And he said, no, not for your work, for you. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, okay. Because I'm always thinking about work. I'm always like, well, I'll figure this out, do what I need to do, and I'll figure this out. But he really wanted to know what Talaya, the person, needed. So I needed rest. I needed more time doing the things that I enjoy. I needed time to slow down and really think about where I wanted to go beyond what I shared in my application, but really, what do I want for me? I've never had the time to really think about it in that way. Reflecting on this question really served as a mirror. I had to look at my gaps with brutal honesty. You know, I'm a 14-year cancer thriver who's already doing this work. I am already leading change. The real question is, how can I do it more effectively so that I'm not burning out? And that is what I have been working on since my fellowship, taking care of myself, getting proper rest. So no more 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, staying up late working. It's prioritizing what's the most important, what has to get done that day in order for me to make the impact I want to make. And guess what? It's not all 10 things I have on my to-do list for that day. Navigating the healthcare system in cancer really prepared me for the rigorous Bush Fellowship process. And I say that because both require persistence. The Bush Fellowship process is the same persistence required to navigate a complex cancer diagnosis. In advocacy, we often wait for results, for policy shifts, or a yes from a provider. The fellowship waiting period was a practice in that same professional holding space. Stepping into this space of the Bush Fellowship with my unique voice and background was an act of advocacy in itself. I encourage you to audit one area of your own leadership or life this week. Leadership is about the person you want to become while doing the work that you're currently doing. As I reflect on these 7 months of my fellowship journey, I realized that the most rigorous part was the honesty required to answer those questions. You have to get real with yourself. You have to get real about what's working, what isn't, where you're falling short, where you're spending time, and maybe wherever you're spending time, maybe those aren't the right areas you're spending time. You also have to get real about who you need, who is causing you stress, who is lightening your load. As leaders, we often want to change the system or have a big, bold impact, but we rarely stop to ask how we must change to lead that movement. This week, I want to leave you with a challenge. Take 15 minutes, about the length of this episode, and conduct your own leadership audit. First, ask yourself the capacity question. If I am to lead the change I want to see in the next 5 years, what part of my current leadership style must evolve or be left behind? And finally, am I building the capacity to honor my vision and to stay in this work for the long run? These are questions that I have had to ask. I have had to face myself. I have had to get real about how I needed to evolve, what I needed to leave behind, how I needed to change, and to get honest about how I am honoring my vision and capacity to stay in this work for the long run. These reflections have not been easy. The answers have not come overnight. It is a process, and it is a process that requires you giving yourself grace. It's a process that requires you allowing yourself to change your mind. Thank you for joining me for this 15-minute reflection. Leadership and advocacy isn't just about the work we do, it's about the person we become while doing it. To continue this conversation and access my latest leadership reflections, visit me at substack.com/@cancerdoula. You can also visit my professional portfolio at talayadendy.pro. Also check out ontheotherside.life, where you can learn more about my work as a cancer doula. Please subscribe and share this episode with other leaders, advocates, and thrivers who may benefit from this reflection. I'll talk to you next time on The Intersections.